What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Why We Love PlayStation VR. Sitting across from me this week and every week, if you find a path with no obstacles, it probably doesn't lead anywhere. It's Desra.
But that's not true at all.
Why?
Well, I mean, the Mass
Have you seen my apartment?
Well, the Mass Pike has no obstacles.
Have you been through rush hour?
That's fair. All right. And sitting across from me is Brian Paul.
And every week on Why We Love PlayStation VR, we sit around and we dust the blow off of an old PlayStation VR game. That's not right. And
That's exactly right.
we take another look at it. We see if it's aged well. We see if it's worth your time. And then we talk about it for way too long and let you know if it's a should we or shouldn't we.
And so this week, we're actually back to our mandate. We've kind of broken it for the past 5 weeks in a row.
I'm so bummed out. Halloween is over officially.
Yeah, but the spirit lives on.
Halloween is never over.
And now it's actually officially time to watch The Nightmare Before Christmas.
I'm so excited.
Right?
All right.
Because
that being said, what game did we decide to talk about this week, Desiree?
We're talking about the specifically non-spooky To the Top.
To the Top by Electric Hat Games, ported over to PlayStation VR by Panic Button, and released on May 29, 2018 for $19.99.
Yeah, I just want to get this out of the way. I mean, we're going to talk a lot about this game very shortly, but keep in mind, as we're talking, this is only $19.99.
Yeah,
okay.
$20.
Yep.
So, what kind of game is this?
It's a parkour-y, obstacle coursey exploration game.
A lot of ease in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a first-person platformer.
Yes, by the strictest definition, yes, it's a first-person platformer.
Yeah, it contains 35 different obstacle courses.
Yes.
More than 35, actually, but they're selling it as 35. We're going to go with 35. And so, into each obstacle course has a bunch of requirements, a bunch of different objectives, goals to
right.
achieve.
So there are 3 different times you can try to beat.
Yeah.
For basically bronze, silver, or gold. Although they don't really call it that. Then there are geomes. Basically these kind of mineral things.
They're chaos emeralds.
Yeah, pretty much chaos emeralds that you can find. And then there's one hidden geome. So basically you have an option of getting, by my count, 5 different points or trophies per each level.
For the most part.
Which is important because you need those to unlock the next level. So it's got a pretty hard, progression system.
Yeah, and at first you can kind of like blast through the levels and just kind of like mess around. Like, okay, you play through one and you're like, it's really, really, really easy to hit that minimum time.
Yeah.
So you're always getting like at least one. Right? Mm-hmm. At least one point to move on. And then you play through like 5 or 6 levels. I forget where they stop you.
Yeah.
And then you hit a wall and you're like, what happened? And you're like, okay. I didn't achieve anything. Yep. I need to go back and replay all of these things.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing, too, like the main idea. It's very easy to look at this from the outside and say, oh, this is basically Sprint Vector, but it doesn't look the same. It's like the minimalist Sprint Vector. But really, I mean, yes, going through the obstacle course to get the best time is one way to play it. The other is just exploration.
Yeah, man, we could talk about the Sprint Vector comparison forever.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of it is, you want to learn the course. Mm-hmm. And I actually don't recommend, I almost never recommend diving into one of these obstacle courses and just trying to beat the best time.
No.
The first thing you should do is just look around. Mm-hmm. Be like, hey, look at that thing way up there. How do I get there?
Yeah.
And just start taking your time. And there's actually a very unique core mechanic. Blue items. Blue items are what you can latch onto. Right. Maybe we should talk about the controls.
Yeah. So basically, you can use this with either the Move controllers, or the DualShock 4,
and put a pin in it. The DualShock 4 is like, for a motion-controlled game, it is surprisingly good. Like, it just works. It just works, and it works. And I know a lot of people who play this game, like, religiously, and still use the DualShock 4. Okay. And I totally get it. I've played it. I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
But to get that full range of movement, like, so often, like, you're facing the wrong way or whatever, you need those move controllers.
Yeah, and I like it, too, because it does add to the immersion where you're kind of swinging around. Now, you don't actually have to move your arms that much.
And it takes a while to kind of like get the gist of the control scheme.
Yeah, you really can just kind of do small hand motions to get it. But honestly, I enjoy playing it like that. It feels more fun, feels more immersive. So
nice.
I'm going to stick with the Move controllers. I'm going to stick with my big monkey swings.
Well, and the reason you don't have to do a lot of crazy actions is because the on-screen representation of the Move controllers aren't hands. They're basically lines that you're kind of pointing to things you want to grab onto.
Right.
And as you kind of like grab onto it, you pull yourself towards it.
Right.
And so this is where it kind of differentiates itself from Sprint Vector in terms of from a control perspective, because what you're doing is sort of it feels to me like you're a cat, and you're kind of pouncing around the environment instead of like running around it or leaping or whatever.
Yeah.
You're grabbing on the things, and as you do it faster and you leap faster, you're building momentum. And there's a little thing on the bottom of the screen that shows you your momentum meter. And building momentum is going to be critical for reaching certain parts of the level.
Right, and that's where the parkour or even like the rock climbing analogies work. You got to keep that momentum going because there are jumps that are damn near impossible to make if you just go from a stop, completely stand still and try to jump. But if you've got some speed going, it's super simple.
Yeah, in fact, if you're in the middle of a level and you stop, my immediate response is crap.
Yeah, reload.
I'm in the middle, like I'm like floating in something in midair, and I'm like, I just can't get there. Restart the level.
Yeah. So if you want to make the Sprint Vector comparison, I guess, but if you take Sprint Vector and put it in a mixer with like Mirror's Edge and Tony Hawk and a little bit of Sonic and hit puree, that's kind of what we're talking about here.
Sprint Vector to me feels like a workout. I'm constantly like, okay, if I just do this really fast, I can get somewhere really fast. This, I feel like, simplifies everything, and I really, every time I play it, I'm just shocked how elegant it feels. That's the word that keeps coming to mind. This is just an elegant control scheme.
And there's also not that like, no matter how you play Sprint Vector, there's that clock is always running, and even if you're trying to find different ways through, it's still, and like, even though the clock is technically running in this, the game is totally okay with you taking 20 minutes to explore and find all the geomes or whatever, because that's just the way you feel like playing the level right now.
Yeah.
Which is really cool.
And actually, that's sort of, so to compare it to another game, the game that I thought of initially when I started playing this game was Windlands, because Windlands is all about exploring the environment. There's no racing.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. But it's all about exploring and trying to find like the hidden sections and trying to be like, oh, how do I get from here all the way up there? And that's what this does better than Windlands. I'm not going to say like it's a better game because I think they're both fantastic, but what it does better than Windlands is it gives you purpose.
Yeah.
Like it's like, here's an obstacle course and here's things to do with it.
Right.
And I just love all of that. I love racing through these things. I love exploring them. I love trying to get trying to complete each one to 100%.
Yeah. And I think the focus on the movement or the motion, which are two different words that I tried to jam together.
Motion.
The
game cows.
Yeah. That comes from the kind of the game's origin. Basically, Dan Dunham and R. Mady, they went and saw some early consumer VR, and basically they were more interested in like, how can we figure out a way to move around in VR that no one else is doing, which is where this came from. Move.
Game cows.
Yep, game.
So I'm gonna do this all night.
Oh, those are arch enemies now, the game cows.
Oh no. Let's hope not.
But the other thing, so their focus was unique motion scheme and minimizing motion sickness.
Well,
they had a goal of 0 motion sickness from the beginning.
So what we're talking about here is jumping and leaping and grabbing onto things. And I don't know if we've explained thoroughly, but you are like launching yourself far into the air. You're grabbing on walls and you're going from that wall and pouncing to a different direction and just constant weird motions and just spinning yourself around and you're playing this.
Yes.
No problem.
No problem at all.
This is mind blowing.
Yeah. To my shame, like, this was one of the titles, as soon as it was announced and I saw a gameplay footage, I was like, all right, you guys are going to have fun with that. There's no way I'm even going to try that.
Yeah.
Because I just assumed that it would be, impossible for me to play. Because it is, you're bouncing around, just this side of flying through all these levels with, it just looked like it would be impossible for me to play. So I didn't play it forever until very recently. We decided we're going to try and talk about it for the episode. So I gave it a shot, and I am totally fine playing this game. Like, not even a little hint. We've talked about some of the horror games we played recently where there's been walking around and all that, and I've been able to, force my way through it or had just a little bit, not even the slightest little hint of dizziness or nausea.
Amazing.
It's incredible. Yeah. So again, Dan, if you're watching this, I want you to start a lecture series Okay, go to like some VR conference and tell people exactly what mojo you did to make this like motion. What is it? Zero motion sickness, and spread the word.
Well, we're talking about Dan Dunham right now, so so let's stop for a second. So stop talking about the game for a minute and talk about these developers.
Okay.
Basically made by two guys.
Yes.
Right. Dan Dunham, programmer designer. He was working at Panic Button.
Okay.
This is. I didn't put the pieces together until just recently.
Just this second.
Yeah, it just came to me. Dan Dunham was working at Panic Button, and on the side he has this little project with Richard Mady.
Yep.
Right, and he is, and they're making this game to the top under the guise of Electric Hat Games. And so they bring it to PC, and it does pretty well. And they're like, working on this multiplayer patch for PC. And then they start talking to Sony. In Panic Button, the company that he's working for, he's like, "Hey, I work for this," and because Panic Button is you look at their portfolio,
right? They're porting.
They're such a port house,
yeah.
Right. Their next big project, at least as far as we're concerned, is Subnautica on PlayStation 4.
Okay,
please give us PlayStation VR support. I know it's gonna look awful. Please just make it happen. So like he is. What I love about this story is that Dan's baby to the top.
Yeah.
He's in full control of from development all the way to porting it over to PlayStation VR. And I was like, that's fantastic.
And he pulled off the amazing job of actually making his side gig his main gig.
Yeah.
But not by leaving his main gig.
Right.
Like, I don't even know.
He just left Panic Button recently to work at Electric Hat full time.
That's fantastic.
Unbelievable story.
I mean, not so great for Panic Button, but
well, I mean, I'm sure they're a talented team over there.
Yeah.
Well,
you mentioned the multiplayer update, so
let's
talk about multiplayer a little bit. That's the other thing. Like there are two kind of different ways to play this while you're playing by yourself. Let's just add in 2 or 3 more different ways to play it in multiplayer.
Multiplayer is fascinating, and
yes,
and I got to say, I can't say I've ever played a multiplayer game like this before. It supports up to 8 players.
Yep.
And just
no other multiplayer game has ever supported 8 players. That's bizarre. Sorry, I'm just being a jerk.
I'm well aware. So yeah, 2 to 8 players, and what it is it gives you a whole new set of maps. Some of them are variations on the single player map, but some of them are brand new, and it challenges you. It's like, okay, here, just like the regular game, it says here's the starting line. And way over there is the finish line.
Yep.
Now, normally, in the regular game, it would take you 2 or 3 minutes to get there. But the multiplayer challenges you to get there in 8 seconds.
Yeah, it's just these levels where you just like, I can see that. It's like, and I'm used to taking, like you said, 3 or 4 minutes. Yeah. And all of a sudden, like, the top time is, 5 seconds, 8 seconds. Like, how is that even possible? That's just what, and by the time you're trying to figure that out, someone smarter than you has already started building all the placeables.
Yeah.
So as you play, you gain AP points, and you can unlock different placeables that you can basically place in to cheat your way through the level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that. That's it. It seems like a debug system from like Sonic the Hedgehog 1 or something.
Yeah.
I actually remember that from Sonic 1. There's a debug menu. You just go into the menu and start putting things wherever you wanted them.
Right.
And that's exactly what this is, and it's crazy to be like, okay, well, here's the starting line, and immediately from the starting line, I'm going to give you a blue ball to launch off of into like this funnel that shoots you right toward the finish line.
Yep.
And then you're just flying across the entire level, like arms flailing, trying to like slow yourself down so you don't fly over it.
Or in my case, completely overshooting the end.
It happens to everybody constantly, and it's hilarious.
Yeah.
And so you have 8 players, all doing the same thing, trying to really master this thing, and so it's funny because it's technically competitive. Well, because there's that leaderboard at the end that says here's who has the best time.
Right.
But it doesn't feel that way.
Yeah, I mean you can go for that, but also the cool thing is everyone's sort of working together to get at least one person to beat the AP time for that. Because if one person beats it, then everyone gets the points.
Yeah.
Which is fantastic. But you also can take credit and get your name up on the leaderboard, like you said, if you beat that time. Like if you're the one to do it, then you get the kudos for that. but everyone who kind of is there and helping out also gets the points.
Speaking of giving credit,
yes,
we want to make
absolutely.
sure we give a very, very serious shout out to our friends God Cannon over at PSVR Underground. We also got Jason the Libinator, and then Just Incredible VR. Just recently changed his name. I think we should. Just Incredible works. It was like JU5 before. I was like, I don't know how to say hi to you. It makes it complicated. So in these guys, like I basically reach out to God Cannon because I know he's like hardcore about this game. And I was like, dude, I'm like, we need a refresher course before we do this episode. We need to dive back in and just kind of like re-explore the mechanics and make sure we have it all down before we start talking about it on camera. And he was like, yeah, sure. And then he got all these guys together and totally worked with our schedule. And so big shout out. Thank you, all three of you. We really, really appreciate your help.
No, they were incredibly patient and gracious. I cannot speak more highly about them. We had the best community, and here's a perfect example. 3 shining stars from it. So kudos to you guys.
This is proof. This is proof. The best community online.
Yeah, and so between that, I haven't even mentioned this. We've talked about how many levels there are, but we haven't talked about how radically different each level is from the other.
It's pretty crazy.
You play the first 2 or 3, and they're kind of like the tutorial. Like, okay, we're sort of this architectural kind of space with blue things.
Exactly what you'd consider when you think of obstacle course.
Yeah,
the first few levels are exactly what you'd think of.
Right. And you're like, okay, I kind of get this. So we're going to do this. Then next thing you know, I don't even want to talk about it too much because I don't want to spoil the experience for people who haven't played yet. But all of a sudden, like the way you move through the space is totally changed just by the placement of where the blue things are, or the theme of the space is completely different.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm talking like radically, not this is short buildings and this one's tall buildings, although that does happen. It's like this is short buildings, this is tall buildings, this is abstract art painting that you're moving yourself through. Yeah. It's the level design on this. I mean, the movement is fantastic. Mm-hmm. The level design is just on its own a whole other thing. Now, again, you're going to look at screenshots and say, well, it just doesn't look that impressive.
Even on the screen, it looks kind of bland. I'll back up just a little bit here. A game made by 2 people. Mm-hmm. The environments, I don't think most of them are not particularly beautiful. Like they are functional often, and sometimes they are impressive. Again, seldom because of the graphics, more because of what's happening. Yeah. Whether it be what's going on in the environment or just the sheer scope of the levels themselves. Mm-hmm. Almost all the levels are really impressive for one reason or another. And then you do occasionally hit the ones that are like, oh, this is beautiful.
Yeah. I think this brings up a really important point that I kind of rail on a little bit myself is we're so wrapped up in like, oh, a game is better because I can count, the individual nose hairs on the protagonist as he's walking by. It's like, okay, it's a good game because the graphics are good. It's like, no, it's a good game because it is well built and fun to play. The graphics are the paint you put on afterwards. Okay, the graphics don't really matter as to how fun a game actually is. Yeah. Right. Just because you can see more individual drops of blood spray from a wound doesn't mean it's a better game.
I don't know. That kind of makes it pretty awesome.
Well, all right. Yeah. And I think this is a perfect example of that. Like, if the resolution was higher, the gameplay would have to be slowed down or nerfed in some way for it to work in VR. So they made, I think, a very wise choice of saying, no, we're going to make the graphics deliberately simpler, so our gameplay is smooth and beautiful and flowing because that's what we want to do.
Yeah, so often the obstacle course itself is towering way above the ground level, and so you just like we don't get motion sick in this game, but man, every so often I look down and go, oh, I'm pretty high up, and so often many of the parts of the level themselves are moving. Yeah. Like, I mean, there are entire levels. Again, we don't want to spoil anything. Like, we want you to experience this on your own. But there are entire levels where the whole level is moving, and that's just incredible. And especially in VR, this is one of those games that, like, I don't know. We don't run into too many games that you just be like, this couldn't be done outside of VR. But in my book, this couldn't be done well outside of VR.
Yeah, I don't. It would be what it would be. Why bother? Yeah. I mean, you could maybe make it work. Yeah. But it just wouldn't look great, and you wouldn't be able to see where you're jumping or yeah. That's terrible. I'm just nauseous thinking about it.
I don't know.
Yeah, not for motion sickness versions, just for design sense.
Well, because as we already stated, like there are often times where you like, grab onto a wall and you're jumping behind you, so you have to like you're grabbing here and then looking completely in the other direction and to pounce off and do this. And like I can't even fathom how that would work on a flat screen.
And there's actually, I mean, there are a few things that really bring me back to Mirror's Edge, where you're just like, okay, I have nowhere else to jump. It looks like there might be a hold over there, so I'm going to go for it. And, oh, good, there was one there. Or, oh, no, there wasn't. I just didn't, you jumped for where you think one might be, and as you're falling, you realize, oh, no, it was there. and fall and die.
And it's all part of learning the level.
Yeah. And there's one, so control scheme is fantastic. Yeah. The flow sense is fantastic. The graphical choice I really like.
Oh yeah.
And finally, let's talk about the audio.
Let's talk about the audio.
The music is
be
fantastic.
Somebody won't be somebody. It's like I love all I don't think there's a song on here I don't love.
Yeah. So I mean, not only did these guys make a great game, they also did something I find so admirable. They're from Austin, and so instead of like, oh, we're gonna use license-free music, or we're gonna try to license some other, we're gonna find local bands in our area that we like and ask them to make music for our game, or let us make music for a game. I'm all about local music scenes. I mean, Austin, of course, is just one of the coolest places on earth anyways, so they have tons of great bands to pick from. But I just love the dedication to that. And not only that, they're not just randomly thrown in there. The music works for the level.
The music in general isn't what you'd consider the music you would find in a game like this. Mm-hmm. There's like bringing it back to Sprint Vector. Yeah. You get the race announcer going, ready, go. It's like, oh, well, okay. And then, but this is like so subdued and laid back and just chill. Yeah. It works because I think it comes back to the control scheme in my book at least, where you're just kind of like like it's just second nature of being like boom, 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 and it's like not that you're jumping and pouncing to the beat of the music. But when you're listening to music and you find yourself walking to the beat on just because that's what's happening. Yeah, I find myself moving through these levels doing the exact same thing, like pouncing to the beat of the music.
Yeah, well, this game is all about getting to that flow state.
Yeah,
as much as say a certain Tetris game that's coming out claims to be doing.
Dude, that's been out for days now.
I know,
like 4 days ago.
This game is really about that, and you get that. Like once you've kind of gotten your hands, gotten your brain around how that works, and then just the music choices and the level design, it's all there to get you to that state of just like boom, getting to the next spot. So
now okay, we've sort of made our way through the entire game now. We've talked about the graphics, talked about the sound, we talked about the controls. Did you know there's a story in this game? Do you know that
there is a story?
This is baffling, because if you don't read the description on the PlayStation Store, at no point are you aware of what's actually going on here.
Well, no, there's a moment with the Oracle, that head thing that kind of, and yes, if you were just kind of doing what most people do and trying to move around that space and ignore it, you missed that. But basically, you are a super bot. This world doesn't have superheroes. You are basically. Now, here's the thing: are you a real person training to be run a super bot,
yes,
or are you a program?
Here's the description. It says, in the future, cities are not protected by superheroes. Instead, superheroes are built. Super bots are human-piloted robots engineered with superpowers to protect and serve the people. To the Top Academy is a training program to test your skills and see if you're capable of piloting one of these machines. Right. So strap in and see if you can pass the challenge. So this whole thing has kind of a background.
Yeah.
It's unnecessary.
No, I mean, it's
I like that it's there, though. It's so random that I'm like, this could have been like, hey, here's 35 obstacle course. I've been like, I'm down.
Right.
Instead they're like, you're a superhuman robot. All right.
Yeah, so if you're looking for some kind of intense story or like bosses to fight or something, as far as I'm aware, that doesn't happen. And I do want to put all my cards on the table here. I have not finished this game. It's going to take me a very long time to finish this game, because it can get very, very difficult. And like we've said, you do have to get certain ranks in all these different levels to unlock the points to unlock the next levels. That being said, I think this is one of the handful of games that we've talked about that I haven't finished by the time of the recording that I absolutely plan on going back and finishing.
The crazy thing is obviously when a game comes out, I try to get a review out as soon as possible, play as much of it as possible, and be well informed. There were things I hadn't unlocked until today.
Yeah.
We're talking to God Cannon and the crew. He was talking about the Iron Man level called Fly. Yeah. And I was like, I actually don't know what that is. And so it's crazy that there are huge additions in this game that happen way later. Most of the mechanics at the beginning are just finding blue things to latch onto and launch off of and attach to. And then later on, there's green things, and green things are like a big, massive skate park where you just slide around everywhere.
Yeah.
In fact, there's very much skate park levels in this game.
Was it the white stuff in Portal? Yeah, I think it's the white stuff. No. There's something. Anyways.
And then, and then it introduces something really strange in this Fly level where, like, basically they give you, with the push of a button, your hands transform into, like, thrusters.
Yeah, like jet engines. Yeah.
And you kind of Iron Man all over this and there doesn't seem to be a limit on how high you can fly.
Apparently not.
But it's so weird that they were like that the developers were like, hey, we've got this great idea and we're going to implement it way late in the game.
Yeah.
And it's obviously just like, hey, we were messing around with this and we thought you might like to check it out.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa, okay.
Right, and then they don't just half-ass the level. They build a level that with huge areas of it that are only accessible by using the jetpack, or the rockets, or the Fly, whatever you want to call it.
Sorry, go ahead.
Just one other thing I want to throw in, and here's the other thing: like this game has been around for a little bit now. The multiplayer has been out for a little bit now, and there are some games we've talked about where there's multiplayer, where the kind of multiplayer community just sort of dwindles away after a few months. To the best of my knowledge, from what God Cannon was telling us, there still is a thing called To the Top Tuesdays at 10 o'clock Eastern, where you get to play with the devs and the rest of the community. Yep. Like they come in and play with you.
Yeah, these devs are amazing.
Like who does that?
Yeah.
I mean, I talked about Spark on the show like 2 weeks ago, and you can fire up servers there and just see tumbleweeds rolling by. There are definitely no devs just kind of pop in and just say hi. Yeah. So that kind of commitment is just really refreshing and nice to see.
So this week's Des Nugget,
yes, is
something that isn't in the final game, but something that the developers were messing around with. Okay, and apparently it worked really well.
I like it that Des Nugget has a life outside of me.
It does. It does. I've now commandeered the Des Nugget. It is the Brian Nugget just doesn't have the same ring. Yeah. I don't know. But so in talking to developers, apparently a lot of people were constantly saying this game would be amazing with guns, and they seem to agree. There's actually they did a prototype build of this game where 1v1, you guys are bouncing around the levels, and you need your hands obviously to climb into pounce and stuff. But just like the thrusters, with the push of a button, they change into guns. Right, and so you basically you're climbing, you're jumping, and you jump off, and then you in midair. It's like John Wooing.
I was just gonna say it's like John Woo the game.
Oh my gosh! And then before you land, you got to change back in the hands to keep your momentum up.
Right,
and apparently this worked really well. So the deal is I can't wait to see what their next game is because how amazing this does sound.
So this
did not make it in the game, as far as I know. They have no plans to bring this to the game, but they did it and it works. And now I'm like, what is To the Top 2 going to be, or what is their plan for their next game? All I know, off the record, is that it's just gonna be bigger and better.
Off the record. Wait a second.
No one watches the show.
Okay,
don't worry.
That's true.
It's all good. Embargo.
Because I'd like to be able to like choose back and forth, so you could like hang and shoot.
Right, I want a thruster in one hand and a gun in the other. How? Okay, we gotta stop.
Now we're back to Tribes.
We gotta stop speculating.
Did anyone play Tribes
on PlayStation 2?
I played it on PC, but
that's
sure.
the only one I played. It was that. And talk about that was not the way to do it. So one of the things we like to do on this show, basically the reason we do this show, is to take a second look at a game to see if it's been updated, see if it's been given any love by the developer. Yeah. Obviously, it's been given a lot of love by the developers.
And been updated.
Four major updates.
Yeah.
The biggest one being patch 1.02 back in June. That added the ability to swap the turn buttons. When it first launched,
Oh, yeah,
if you
we
had
did
this
talk about
problem, the turn buttons were on the top of the controller, the top two face buttons, which meant that there's a reset button that I was accidentally hitting all the time.
Yeah.
Like right below it on the bottom two face buttons. And so they updated that. They gave you the ability to swap them out. They also added some smaller things like during the loading screens, the voice chat used to cut out and now it doesn't. And then they increased the maximum placeables from 1 to 2. So there was, some things that people asked for, obviously, that got patched in. But there's been 4 updates, and as of right now, I can't see the need for another one. There's no PlayStation 4 Pro patch to really like up that resolution more, but again, it doesn't seem to need it.
I don't know what upping the resolution would do. It make things a little smoother, but who cares? So,
is it that time of the day?
I guess so.
Time of the day.
Time of the day.
Is that time of the show?
Sure.
All right, let's rate this sucker.
So our rating system is pretty simple. 1 means it's a must-buy. If you have a PSVR, this has to be in your library. It is one of the best of what is possible in VR. 2 is, yeah, sure, why not? If it's a genre you particularly like, or if it's on sale at a price you can afford, go ahead, pick it up. It's not going to bother us. And 3 is, no. Do not buy this. Friends don't let friends buy crap. We need to vote with our mullets. It's been a bad day for Des talking. We need to vote with our wallets and tell these developers that we deserve better. So 1, 2, or 3. What do you think?
There's, I like to usually give a little speech and go off on a tangent about all the things I love about the game, and I got to say that this is one of those things that I was gonna forego the speech and just say that it's a 1 because it is. But this.
All right, bye everybody.
The great thing about this game is that it's so often I play a game and I have to relearn it if I take a break from it for a month or 2.
Yeah.
In this, I took a long break from, and I came back to it, and I was like, no, I'm immediately back in. I'm immediately sucked back in. I'm immediately re-addicted. I immediately want to unlock everything that I find. I immediately want to, find all the Chaos Emeralds and beat those best times. There's something very addictive about it, and the fact that everyone seems to be able to play this with no motion sickness. It's sort of racing, it's sort of a sport, it's sort of parkour, it's sort of exploration, it sort of just checks a whole lot of boxes.
Yeah.
And for $19.99, and it's been on sale, surprisingly.
Yeah.
It might be the best value and one of the best games on PlayStation VR, hands down.
Yeah, I'm just going to jump right in there and say, it's a 1, 2. And I have it all in all caps here. I don't understand why this is only $20.
Yeah.
We have paid so much more for so much less. I mean, I'm not complaining that it's only $20. I think it's fantastic. And again, you just dropped all this money on the VR headset. Your wallet's feeling a little light, so you don't want to drop. Maybe you don't feel like buying Skyrim right now. Well, it's $60, right?
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah. But man, $20 for this, you're not going to find a better value. This is a fantastic game. We spent the whole this whole time raving about it. I feel like we're kind of repeating ourselves at this point, but just pick it up. I really wish I had kind of given it a chance earlier, so I would have been playing it longer and been singing its praises for longer, because this is definitely way up in my top 10, maybe my top 5 right now. Go just play this game.
It's Windlands with purpose. That is until Windlands 2 comes out and gives us all purpose in archery.
Or dolphins.
Porpoise?
Yeah.
Oh my God. This is the second bad joke of the day. Yeah. All right.
Well, you're being charitable calling that a joke.
All right, guys. So that pretty much does it for this episode of Why We Love PlayStation VR. Obviously, we ask you the same question at the end of every single episode. First, and most importantly,
where are my pants?
Where are my pants? I promised myself I wasn't going to wear pants today, but twice now I put on pants because you showed up at my house twice.
Yeah.
But what do you think of To the Top? I mean, I can't imagine anyone saying anything negative about this.
There's someone typing it right now.
Yeah, but we don't listen to him.
Yeah.
We blocked him a year ago. So if you haven't bought it already, why haven't you? If you're planning on buying it, what's keeping you from buying it? If you've been playing it, what's your favorite level?
Yeah.
I'm really curious to know. I want to hear everyone's impressions of this game in the comments below.
It would be interesting to hear a dissenting opinion if anyone did have any motion sickness issues.
There's got to be somebody, right?
Yeah, I want to know.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And hopefully all the comments in the comment section will convince anyone who hasn't purchased it already to give it a chance.
Please do.
Also, the question we always ask is, what other games do you want us to talk about? To the Top is our first venture back into non-scary games. Although if you have a fear of heights, I might venture into scary territory. But obviously the list is long. But man, we've got a lot of time on our hands. We've got endless weeks ahead of us.
Well, I have a little less time now because I'll be playing To the Top. I kind of don't want to think about the next episode's game because I don't want to play a different game right now.
Well, there you go. We'll just talk about To the Top next week.
Okay.
All right. For another episode of Why We Love PlayStation VR, I'm Brian Paul.
I'm Des.
And we'll see you next week.